This is a new plane. Gonna have a takeoff on my combat wing, and using a little quadcopter motor, a little 2206, and an ESC that should be 18 amp, but it's 15. But I just want to see if this combination will actually fly. I probably should have more of a motor on here and a bigger ESC. Wow, it's a floater. Look at it, like, it doesn't take much power to keep it floating. That little motor just is not given much in the way of thrust at all. So I'd definitely change the motor, probably something with a bigger prop. Could go lower kV on the motor. Oh, look at it roll. Nice tight rolls, very straight flight line. This is on a 1300 milliamp hour battery, which seems pretty ideal right now. I'm using the motor I'm using because they were on sale at Hobby King for $4.99, and I thought I could use them on some lighter foamies. Or if they didn't work for that, eventually I could just build myself a small quad. I'm actually really liking the way this is flying. I just need to find a more appropriate motor for it. I brought a 2200 along as well, but I'm not sure if I want to put a battery that big on it. Definitely not getting much in the way of vertical. I don't want to push it too much because the motor's supposed to have a max draw of 18 amps, and this is a 15 amp ESC, so I'd rather not push it at full throttle all the time. I'm just using a 60-45 prop that's meant for a quad on it as well, because I've got a boatload of those around. Easy to fly. Flies a lot like the combat wing, but floats better because it's made of foam instead of the corrugated plastic. No issues with it rolling. Can do a loop, but its power is limited. It's the amount of vertical it gets isn't great. Let's well, hold on, that sun's kind of bright in my eyes. Let's try right here. We'll try going vertical and we'll see what we can get. That's at full throttle. I get 30 or 40 feet of vertical before I have to let off a little. So another difference between this and my combat wing is you'll notice that the stabilizer's in the center instead of two stabilizers nearer to the outside. And I've seen some other designs. I think one's called the Firefly that kind of looks a little like that. I didn't bother putting a rudder on it, just left it as a stabilizer, but it seems to be doing its job. Easy to control. I have no wind out here, so let's see, a little bit of inverted. Flies inverted, no problem. Oh, I wish I had my sunglasses. That is bright. We'll do a slow pass here. See if I can get some high alpha stuff going. Fairly easy to control with the high alpha. That stabilizer in the center is catching the wind on both sides. I imagine it's keeping it nice and straight. That might also be taking away a little bit on my speed, but looks like it's worth it for the stability. I dare say this won't be the last of these that I build of this style. I think this is nice and easy to fly. This is a pretty decent beginner wing. The material is 1/2-inch styrofoam insulation. I think it's called XPS. It's Dow Cladmate. So it's $7 for a 2-foot by 8-foot sheet. And this is about 1/3 of a sheet plus a little tiny bit for the stabilizer. You could use whatever you want for the stabilizer though. It doesn't have to be the same material. I just happen to have some lying around, so I use the same. So you can get 3 of these out of a $7 sheet of that foam. I did add 2 fiberglass rods and 1 thin carbon fiber piece just to add to the rigidity of it. That and the tape, and hopefully it'll withstand crashes pretty well. I don't think it'll withstand combat as well as the corrugated plastic because the prop will chew it up from another plane. But as far as just having some fun flying, be interesting to see how hot this motor is when it was done. I originally tried this motor with a cheap $5 ESC that I had bought from Banggood, and I had all kinds of timing issues. I went through all the timing options and I could get it okay, but occasionally it would glitch, and boy did it run hot. So I changed it for a little quad ESC that I had left over, a 15 amp, and it seemed to be much better. We'll see how hot it is at the end of this flight. Oh, there we go. I am out of juice. Out of juice. That battery's done. So we'll see if I burn my fingers on the motor. If I don't, then, and I think this is a go with a 20 amp ESC, we could make this configuration work. A little more power on that motor would make this a lot more fun if you could go vertical better. That's not that hot at all. So it was the ESC motor combination that was an issue before. Battery's a tiny bit warm, and the ESC isn't even warm, so I'm okay. So I'm going to put a 2200 on here and see if it's got enough oomph to get up in the air with that. That doesn't come off. Seems to be rocking quite a bit there. Well, I definitely need to give it a little bit more throttle with the 2200. And I need a little more up elevator to keep in the air because now the CG is just a little bit more forward. But surprisingly, I've got just as good vertical, probably because the battery got a little bit more oomph to it. Let's see if we can slow it down on a slow pass. Oh, definitely definitely not as maneuverable at slow speed, or harder to slow down completely with this battery. So if I'm going to fly it with this little motor, this isn't probably the right battery for it. Like I said, I'm running this almost full out, which I didn't want to do because the ESC isn't big enough for that. Still pretty easy to fly though. Be interesting to see how smooth the video is. Oh, it's nice tight rolls. Nice tight rolls off of it. Luckily that ESC is holding up. Noisy little motor. For what I'm getting out of it. So I'll have to build some smaller wings to use these motors, because like I said, I bought 8 of them. I think I'm gonna first bring it in. Consider myself lucky that I had a good day with no crashes. Brand new design, Maiden. Flew well. It was lots of fun.